We're about news, commentary, conversations, truth, liberty, and God. We stand for American values and our flag. We believe that the Constitution is a document that fortifies rights already given to us by our Creator. We will not apologize for our love of God and country, ever. We are Right America Media.
All right. Welcome back to the Blue Collar Intellectual Podcast. I'm glad to have everyone back. It was a nice, hot summer weekend. You know, it was 4th of July. Got to spend some time with the kids, go up to the beach, watch some fireworks and stuff. And as always, with me today for the opening up today's episode, I have Andy in studio to give us the Citizens Doge report. Andy, how you doing? What's up?
I'm doing great, Julian. Thank you for having me again. So this week's report is sponsored by the Blue Collar Intellectual Podcast, as always, David Loveland of Loveland Realty, and 7K Metal's new product line. You can just announce this today, Citizens Gold. Loveland Realty is a Patriot-owned firm that cares about its clients and takes care of them. If you're in the market for a new residence and want to work with someone who shares the same values, we ask that you please reach out to David and visit Loveland Realty at their office on Foundry Way in Concord. And on the matter of the 7K Metals new product line, 7K Metals is a gold and silver dealer based out of Idaho Falls, Iowa. And they want me to read that when the dollar dies, gold survives. Inflation is silent theft. Every paycheck buys less, and Citizens Gold is the new product they are issuing that helps patriots fight back. Start with little as $1. Own real silver and gold linked directly to your bank, secure, simple, and sovereign. While they devalue your money, you protect your wealth with real assets. It's patriot-owned, inflation-proof, wealth that lasts. Start today. Visit 7kmetals.com/Citizens Gold to learn more. That's 7kmetals.com/Citizens Gold. And now to the regular report items. Last week, on Friday, Independence Day, Mike and I were present at the Brentwood Independence Day Parade, about an hour east of here. Scott Brown and a group of his supporters were there. We were lucky enough to be invited to be among those who were asked to proceed with his group, and it was a lively crowd. People braved the heat pretty well, and it was a pretty good Independence Day Parade in New Hampshire overall.
Nice.
Where were you on Independence Day, for what it's worth?
I got up to the beach. I took the kids out. My son turned 14 on Thursday, on the 3rd, so he wanted to go out to La Coretta, get some Mexican food. Went, got a nice, big, fat, huge grande burrito and stuff. Yeah. Then on Friday, we went up to the beach, spent all day at Hampton State Beach. More family-friendly, less thongs and weird string bikinis that cover absolutely nothing on teenage girls. Really uncomfortable. So, went to the family-oriented beach. Kids played in the water, had a good time, sunbathed, chilled. Then we got back to the house, ate some dinner, headed over to downtown Derry for the fireworks, and that was just a great time. Just a great time. My wife had her JBL speaker. We were listening to music. She has a patriotic soundtrack that we had playing, and it just happened to line up perfectly with the fireworks. So as they're popping off, you have God Bless America, Whitney Houston's rendition of the national anthem, Katy Perry firework, West Virginia. It was just all cylinders. It was like, yeah. By the end of it, it was such a good time. And then the rest of the weekend, it was like, oh, well, we had Erica Leon, State Representative Erica Leon had a bonfire barbecue, had a whole bunch of people over her house, met some potential dairy state representatives who will be running for office in the next election, a bunch of young guys ready to mix it up, right? And then ran into a couple more people on Sunday. It was just an all-around good weekend, family-oriented, kept it low-key, nothing crazy. Thank God I didn't try to get in and out of the traffic at Hampton Beach for the fireworks.
Yeah, the traffic down South Cape Cod was pretty bad. I can attest. I was going back and forth between Wilton and there over the weekend. So as far as events upcoming for Citizens Doge, we have 2 upcoming county GOP meetings in the next week. Belknap County will be tomorrow, July 9th in Laconia, I believe at 6 p.m., but I could check that. It'll be either 6 or 7 p.m. Sullivan County next Tuesday, July 15th. We may have a representative there for Mike and I, but either way, we'll have somebody there at the Sullivan County meeting. I also happen to know that the Sullivan County GOP cruise is going to be on Lake Sunapee this upcoming Thursday, I believe. I don't think that Mike and I will be going to that, but we hope to hear from people who have heard of us or maybe working with us who may be attending, and we'll see what the conversation we hear about coming from there is like.
Nice.
As far as events upcoming that are of a little bit bigger magnitude, there is a volunteer barbecue coming up on Friday, July 18th in Wilton at 77 Holt Road, which is an address where we have had many events, most of our events so far, quite frankly. It's an address of our good friends the Belangers. It'll be from 6 to 8:30 p.m. There's going to be food. There's going to be speakers. I hear some really good ones. There's going to be opportunities to network with, of course, like-minded people. But the main thing that we want to impress upon people who come is that this is an opportunity to learn about the volunteer training and programs and other initiatives in local communities, especially in this immediate area that we're offering and that we are looking to send people out before the end of the summer. This is the quiet period of the year politically in a year off, the off-year elections. So it is quiet. We want to take advantage of this moment to, as you've said so many times, ramp up the local political activity to turn the tide against some of the things that we see going on that are worrisome. And we want to get that kick started with this barbecue. We hope to be a big hit coming up next week.
I know everybody focuses on the big game day, right? But everyone needs to remember, in between games, the team practices. The team practices, you go over game film, you get prepared, so when you walk out on the field, you're all ready to go. We need to make sure that we're prepared when we walk on the field for game day. We
100%.
Can't just wait till game day and be like, stop, timeout, let's go over some game film, let's run a couple drills. That's not how it works.
That's absolutely right. And just a quick mention of some other items. These T-shirts that you can see on the screen here, I hope I'm in the line of the camera. These designs, in addition to the one that you see on me right now, these were agreed to and executed by Mike in tandem with a partner of his named Shane, who really came through for us with these very snazzy threads that you can see right there. If you have any interest in reaching out to us about these designs or have ideas for others like them, please reach out to us at citizensdoge.com, our Gmail, which is citizensdoge@gmail, of course. I don't know exactly when another shipment of these will be in, but I'm guessing it should be coming soon and perhaps before the volunteer barbecue next Friday, but we shall see. And the very last quick thing I want to mention is we are on all the major social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and X. Mike tells me that Instagram is in progress, but exactly when that will be formally completed, we shall see. Our X handle is at CitizensDogeUSA. And, of course, last but certainly not least, thank you again to Julian for being our sponsor emeritus.
No, not a problem. We all have to get involved. We all have to do our part to make sure that we're building up the grassroots infrastructure in between campaign cycles. We can't wait, like I just said, can't wait till it's game day to start getting prepared.
Yeah,
and for all the people who complain endlessly about what the GOP does or doesn't do, get involved, help Citizens Doge, pay attention to what's happening in your local community, because if you don't. So I just had this clip the last interview that we did where I had you in the studio and we were talking about if you're going to move to New Hampshire, understand why New Hampshire is the way that it is and get yourself on board with where we are before you move here. Don't bring Massachusetts, New York, Vermont, Maine, or any of those shenanigans here to New Hampshire, but come here, become a part of this live free or die spirit and make the state better. It's the freest state in the nation by far. Make it better. And you know what? People took out, they're like, you said that there's almost no taxes because you don't have an income tax or an excise tax or a sales tax, but the property taxes are insane. I go, and the property taxes have more to say about how your local school district is run and the housing market, because let's be honest, your property taxes primarily pay for your firefighters, your police, your schools, your town infrastructure, so on and so forth. So if your taxes continue to go up unchecked, the biggest chunk out of that is schools. Go look at your school board, sit down, figure out where that money's coming from. If you don't have line item budgeting so that you can understand your school's budget, probably should be the first thing you look at getting done. Like file a 91A so that you can file a FOIA so you can get your information so you can start holding your school board accountable. Because I guarantee you, I know it seems like something that we all go, they're educating the kids and it's a thankless job and stuff. And I give teachers a lot of credit. But the use it or lose it methodology of spending does not just exist at the federal level. It exists at the local level as well. And if you are not engaged, not involved, not doing something and paying attention to what's happening at a local level, you can't get rid of that use it or lose it spending. Therefore, and that incentivizes waste, because what happens at the end of the cycle or the end of the fiscal year when you have money left over, go buy a bunch of shit because we don't want our budget to get cut next year. That incentivizes more and more and more waste. Not to mention, we talk about teachers. You got teachers who continuously ask for raises while the schools continue to hire administrators who make 2, 3, 4, sometimes even 5 times as much as these teachers make. And I'm sitting there going, you say you don't have enough teachers, you could fire one administrator and get half a dozen teachers.
It changes the whole incentive structure of the education system with it.
Yeah, you could give everybody a raise. Like you got one teacher or one administrator making 300. I saw it earlier. We have an administrator in this state making damn near $400,000 a year, making almost as much as the president of the United States. How is that even remotely reasonable? Fire that dude. Give all the teachers in the school like a $5,000 raise, and call it a day. Like if you're telling me teachers don't get paid enough, I could get rid of that guy and pay you guys a hell of a lot better. Like, grab your pitchforks and your tiki torches. Let's get this bastard out of here. Especially when the guy's his job is DEI. Like, diversity, equity, inclusion. Come on, let's be freaking serious here. This is New Hampshire. It's like 90% white people. The most diverse you're going to get is an Italian dude, an Irish dude, a Scottish dude, a Welsh dude, a Polak, and a Greek guy in the same room. That's your diversity. And then you have me. I'm 50% of the black population of the state sitting right here. Like, it's astronomical that we even play these stupid games. But all the people who were whining about, my property taxes are high, when's the last time you showed up to a school board? When's the last time you showed up to a town council meeting? When's the last time you audited your town's budget? Or you paid attention to shit other than the letter you get in the mail that tells the town that you owe them more money? When's the last time you audited, I don't know, how many contracts go to the town that are zero contest? They go to the town, they get approved immediately because there's the vendor has a monopoly on that contract or has a buddy on the town council, so it just slides through.
Or that the contracts are being pitched to the town just after they approve their fiscal year budget.
Yeah. Oh, yes, that happens constantly. Just like, what was it? An excavator up north. You said $90,000, was it?
That sounds about right. Yeah, it was in Wilton.
$90,000 for an excavator. Mm-hmm. For what? And they didn't tell you what it was. They could have had it for a day or a week.
There are some town roads there that need some fixing. They need a new pedestrian bridge, I understand. And there's just some ecological things going on with some of the waterways going through town that they feel this is necessary. And they had these long deliberations on it in the town meeting that I attended last week. But, again, it was like, oh, wow, they just approved the next fiscal year budget 2 weeks ago. And they're adding all these new expenses now or considering ones that are even bigger. And honestly, the people who came in to that meeting in Wilton and were pitching projects to help the town with things that they feel are needed were very impressive people. The second group or tandem in particular, they were more of the ecological variety than the actual just physical infrastructure building variety. But at the same time, it's just like, yeah, as you said, these things just aggregate and accumulate, and they throw the town finances completely out of whack, and they raise people's property taxes, and it's a whole bad spiral that just continues if people don't keep track of what's going on.
Yeah, and I'm going to be honest. I want the person who's sitting in that seat to look at the town budget as if these are my taxes. This comes out of my pocket. It's not the town's money. Like, I was just having this discussion with somebody yesterday. There's this government mindset that you owe something to the government, that the government is owed your money, and that any dollar that the government doesn't get of your money must be replaced by somebody else's money. And I'm sitting there going, well, one, this isn't the mob. I'm not giving you, this isn't a protection racket. I don't owe you jack shit. You owe me. I have rights. You have duties and responsibilities. That's how it works. To the degree that I ask you to do something, I'm increasing your duties and responsibilities. But always a part of those duties and responsibilities is transparency, accountability, efficiency, and efficacy, which in politics, in every level of government, is the dirty word. Those are like swear words. We don't want accountability. We don't want transparency. We don't want efficiency. We don't want efficacy. Because that means that you're going to get rid of us. You're going to elect new people, or you're going to start cracking down on our budget, or you're going to start taking funds or taking resources from us. And my constant statement is they're not your resources. They are the people's resources. I'm loaning these to you. I'm giving you money expecting you to be a good steward of my tax dollars. You are a bad steward of my tax dollars, therefore I want my tax dollars back.
Exactly.
I wish more people understood that, like, we're asking Kelly Ayotte and we're asking the state legislature to fix problems that are local problems. But nobody wants to get up off their ass to solve the local problems because that's not sexy. That didn't get you up in the morning on your Twitter machine. There's no memes or reels or TikToks going around about your local politics. It's just not... Oh, you know what? Maybe I should have girls jumping around in bikinis on a trampoline with big boobs, and people would start with RSA such and such on their boobs. That way people would start paying attention because sex sells pretty much everything. Maybe if I have gorgeous women bounce around on a trampoline, people start paying attention to their local politics. Like, hey.
Sounds like the Man Show.
Yeah, exactly. Come down to your town council meeting. Afterwards, we're going to have a dunk tank and a wet T-shirt contest. Yeah. Like, because that's what it takes these days to get people to actually pay attention.
Yeah, maybe if I pitch that to Mike and I will make as much money as Dave Portnoy.
Hey, I don't know. I've had a long week. I don't sleep, and I'm at this point where, like. And I'm watching people melt down over a lot of the shit that we got going on, right?
Oh.
At the national level, at the state level and stuff. And even worse, I'm watching people who had nothing to say when our state budget was getting passed melting down over the state budget. I go, where the hell were you? They're like, oh, well, I have a job. I go, I have a job too. I was like, it wasn't hard to see. There were numerous articles written about the housing issue and all the other stuff in the state budget on both sides of every argument. There are numerous posts. Therese does a live like 2-3 times a day. Like, there was plenty of information out there. If you wanted the information, it was there for you to have it. If you didn't get the information, you didn't care enough to pay attention. I don't care about hearing your criticism. And I'm starting to take the same position with people who elect candidates to office. And they're like, I didn't know that's where he stood on that issue. Did you bother to do any research? Well, he never told me. I go, it's your responsibility to do the research. He put it out there. It's on his website. You didn't bother to look at his website. You got caught up in the nice things that they said, right? The big, sexy, shiny objects and stuff. Fuck. God, I'm quickly becoming that crotchety old man who's always pissed off. Yeah. But all right, so we're going to roll into the next segment. Thank you for watching Blue Collar Intellectual Podcast. Up next, we have Ryan McDermott, author of Downriver Memoir of a Poet, going to be up next, and we're going to have a good discussion. So see you in a couple minutes. United We Stand, A Marine's Fight. Written by Julian Acciard. I wrote this book to decipher through the tumultuous political dialogue and political gangbanging we see on both sides of the aisle between politicians, activists, influencers, and pundits, and get down to brass tacks solutions in order to save our republic. Again, United We Stand, A Marine's Fight, written by Julian Acciard. You can purchase the book on Amazon, Kindle, and Barnes & Noble.
Would you rather spend time with family and friends in the pool or at the barbecue rather than landscaping your yard? Well, Augusta Lawn Care is here to help you with all of your landscaping needs. Proudly serving Southern New Hampshire, we handle everything. Weekly mowing, spring and fall cleanups, bush trimming, mulch installs, lawn treatments, aeration, dethatching, and even snow plowing and salting when the dreaded winter hits. Call Augusta Lawn Care today and let your yard be the best looking yard on the block. Call 603-331-4768. Augusta Lawn Care, locally owned, professionally done. Call 603-331-4678 or visit us online at augustalawncareservices.com/Londonderry. That's augustalawncareservices.com/Londonderry.
New Hampshire Republican Governor Kelly Ayotte has been making a lot of noise about how she's funding education. The Republican budget she just signed provides more money for education than ever before. She even bragged the other day that New Hampshire is top 10 in the country when it comes to funding our children's education, as if giving money to school systems has anything to do with learning. If you look at the math, and if you got schooled in New Hampshire, the odds are good it's not your best subject. It's the exact opposite. The more money we throw at schools, the less kids learn. We're committed to wasting money on an experiment that failed, unless wasting money to drive parents to homeschool their kids was the goal. We prefer to pick on Democrats, lower hanging fruit and all that, but our rhetorical woodshed doesn't discriminate. If that sounds refreshing, you need to check us out. This is Steve McDonald for Granite Rock, and we'll keep shining the light on them for you.
This could be the moment we've been waiting for, the chance to feel alive.
Sometimes we forget we live in one of the most beautiful states in the country. This summer, vacation right here and discover your new.
This is where it all begins. This is where it all begins.
All right, all right, all right. Welcome back to Blue Collar Intellectual Podcast. Oh shit. Sorry about that. Forgot my mic was off. We were having a great time jamming. Can't have that coming over the airwaves during the break. But thank you. Welcome back to the Blue Collar Intellectual Podcast. We're on our second segment. We're going to have a great guest coming on, Ryan McDermott, author of Memoir of a Warrior Poet, to discuss the soul of America and how we can possibly save it. As always, in studio with me today, I still have my buddy Andy from Citizens Doge. He's our local expert on the ground, helping build up the grassroots infrastructure in order to take back our republic. Because if you're not active locally, you're not really taking the republic seriously now, are you? So get up off your ass and get to work, or you're fired. We were just having a great conversation in the break about how you end up meeting people through, different degrees of separation, and then you have these moments where you meet your heroes, and it breaks your heart because you're like, damn, that guy is such an asshole, and you're saying like, celebrities, and then you meet some where you're like, damn, I want to have a beer with this guy. This guy's really freaking cool. And then you meet people where you're like, wow, you're fake. Your whole persona, everything about you is fake. And it's just sad. But hey, small world, right? 7 degrees separation.
Well, it certainly is.
So like we were discussing going into the break, you got a lot of stuff going on, bouncing balls, shining bright shining lights and stuff, and everybody needs to get active locally. And the vast majority of people who are complaining about problems that seem to be the most detrimental in their life are not active in the very arena where those problems come to slap them in the face. But we're all paying attention to the grimy, knockdown, drag-out fight between Elon and Trump right now, where Trump goes, I pity the fool, and Elon is randomly saying that everybody's on the Epstein list. Trump's on the Epstein list and Steve Bannon's on the Epstein list. And I'm sitting here going, all right, let's just call a spade, right? If you saw the Epstein list and you know whose freaking name's on it, why didn't you say shit when you were there? Why didn't you say stuff before? Oh, you were willing to ignore it as long as you got what you wanted, right? Which makes you no different than the guys that you're claiming are on the list in the first damn place. Because you were willing to cover for them when you got what you want. Now you're saying that it's not okay. It sounds like he's just throwing a temper tantrum in my estimation, and I don't find it to be wholly productive for the dialogue nationally. But, so, again, like I just said, we have a guest coming on, Ryan McDermott, author of Downriver, Memoir of a Warrior Poet. I'm having a moment, haven't had my caffeine. How you doing, Ryan? Thank you for coming on the show.
Doing great. Thanks for having me today.
All right. So tell me about your book.
So the book is Downriver, Memoir of a Warrior Poet is my story leading up to and including the Iraq War in 2003 in particular, the initial invasion. My unit, I was a platoon leader at the time, 24 years old, just had a kid, and went off to war. And so, that whole first part fought in several battles, and then we eventually came home in August of 2003. I decided to get out and pursued a career on Wall Street. Of all the places to end up in 2008, I was at Lehman Brothers. I was part of the last associate class at Lehman Brothers. And as I was doing all this, trying to manage having a family, by that point in time, I had 3 kids. And frankly speaking, I had PTSD, didn't want to acknowledge it at that time. And the stresses of everything culminated. And so the book is kind of a cathartic process. I wrote it over many years and decided to, and so it basically ends in sort of around 2011 as the main story ending. And I've basically sort of worked on it over the years. There's actually poetry in there. That's kind of like my outlet as a creative outlet. And so it's an integration of that, and it's really about healing and reconciliation. It's there's a lot. everyone's that reads it, I think, is gonna take something different from it. If you're a veteran, your own story will you'll kind of put that against it. But I also think civilians will take something away from this story as well. It's really, at the heart of it, it's about being a better person. For me, it was about refining myself after I left and got lost in sort of the pursuit of the rat race and being a better father. My son wrote the afterword, and so it's I think an apt sort of conclusion to the book is that he gets the last word.
I love that. I absolutely love that. I served in Iraq as well, came back with PTSD. Likewise, actually just wrote a book too. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah, it's a long process for people who don't understand. It is a grueling process, especially writing the book is a lot easier than the editorial process. The editorial process it sucks.
Yeah, it's kind of like writing. I don't know. There's a friend of mine who's writing his own stuff now. There's like the first phase is like writing it for yourself.
Yeah,
I think, because you're just writing it to get it out, and then it took many years for me to kind of realize, oh, this needs to be for somebody else. It needs to make sense to somebody else. I'm not gonna. I can't be filling in gaps. It has to make a sense. And so, I want to say the original manuscript is probably like 500 pages, and this book is 294, I think.
Okay. Yeah, that's a lot to whittle down. And that's a huge focus shift from 500 to just under 300. So we had you on to discuss the soul of the Republic.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts about
Well,
where we are presently?
Well, I think where we're at is sort of a point in time where we found ourselves in points like this throughout our nation's history. And I think it's interesting to sort of start with, the revolution. Washington, I think, is a sort of emblematic of a warrior poet. He, fought through adversity, persevered, and, was understood the power of symbols and it wasn't necessarily an actual poet, but you don't have to be to sort of embody that archetype. It's an archetype. Yeah. You're a warrior poet in a sense that, you've fought for your country and you think deeply about meaning, about what, why, fundamentally about what our country is all about and what do we fight? What did we fight for? I think is the point. Mm-hmm. I think that's important in the war. The sort of culture is, we need to understand that. And so going back to Washington and, through today, we've had these times where there's been a lot of, friction on big issues, meaningful issues. And there was a civil war. There's been, sort of political division throughout our history. And, where we're at, it concerns me because I think there are certain things that need to be able to bring the country together. And on the future, we need to be able to come together if there's a crisis. If there's another 9/11, we need to be able to come together as a country and unite and so that and for those values that we hold dear that go back to our foundation.
Wow, I definitely can't disagree. The title of my book was United We Stand, a Marines Fight, and it's literally about ditching the tumultuous political dialogue and focusing on solutions, because a lot of the national discourse that we have right now drives us so far away from the unity that is absolutely necessary in a society that really isn't unlike every other society on a planet. In most countries on the planet, we don't share a common tribe. We don't share a common national ethnic origin. We are the bastards of the world who came together to create a nation of liberty and freedom. And that liberty and freedom is supposed to be the underlying current of the country. And when we forget that, we get embroiled in tribalism and we start attacking each other, and then we can't discuss real solutions.
Yeah, something you were saying earlier, like I was listening in, and it has to do with the way media is, where you have to say something very provocative to get the attention you need, or have a provocative imagery, right? We don't need to revisit that, but the provocative sort of imagery. And part of my story is meant not, I'm solutions sort of focused. I think we have big challenges. We've got, the world is different than it was 20 past 25 years. We had the global war on terror, and really asymmetric fight against, in countries where not necessarily, I would not say existential threats, right? No. And now we face existential threats, great powers, China being, top of the list. And these are big challenges that require, it's not just like, okay, we've got to be able to sort of do these things and, budgetary wise, it's literally having people who are willing to serve the country. Two, we've got to be a more productive society, and that's the way we sort of win the long game. Is we've got to come together, and we've got to, and that's kind of the lesson of my book, or like one of the messages, is that if we focus so much on the past and the things that divide us, we got to come to some resolution on that. There's a personal anecdote. My wife and I separated, and we ended up divorcing, but we had to make it work on a fundamental level for our children, and eventually that process brought us back together in reconciliation. And I think that is, if we really focus on like the challenges we have, and then a future orientation of like, here's how we can get there. We can get there, and we have to get there together. And really that unity message of like, we can get there, but we have to work together. And if we work together, great things are going to happen. And some of the things we feel like are dividing us in the moment, hopefully, we can overcome that.
I think the biggest thing that we're going to have to overcome is social media. I think social media puts a spotlight and a mirror on all the problems of society, and rather than dealing with those issues, we've taken to pointing out everybody else's problems rather than looking in the mirror to handle our own. So it's easy to hop online, and I've often said it more recently that we used to have people that we kept at the proverbial children's table for when it came to national dialogue, right? The extremes, the outskirts of polite society that we would cast off to the edges. But now those people who would normally be ostracized are on social media, given a microphone where they can find commonality with others throughout the country who may think like them, who also would have been ostracized. So now they feel vindicated. And because they feel vindicated, they're loud, obnoxious, and belligerent on a constant basis. And this gives the air as if the extremes online are larger than they actually are, because the average person spends far more on time online these days than they normally do. And now we're seeing studies come out saying it's warping people's perception of reality.
Yeah, there's a lot. I think social media and how we consume information has to be, you have to think about it in those terms of it affects the sort of the way we interact. I try to shut off some stuff, and I watch a little bit of everything. But to your point, I think that's one of the, it's also, I think, affects young people on social media. Like, I have 3 kids, and one of my kids will be online and see, and I think it's an inherent thing to start comparing. It's like, hey, all these other people have it so great, and there's an aspect of it from a mental health that it's like they start to think everyone's got it great, and they're the one person that's got it hard. And so there is this one of the things, and a theme you mentioned within the book is I try to a little bit of what you talked about, of like, instead of I try not to fault anybody else for what happened in my process. I took accountability. I should have not been so proud not to think that, hey, I can just push through this. I should have gone and gotten some help much earlier in the process before I hit a breaking point. Families are, family is sort of impacted by that. And so I think it does require a sort of, and there's this aspect that kind of the secret thing I'm hoping for is if somebody reads this book, they might do some of that type of introspection to say, how can I evaluate myself? What can I do better? Or what do I need to do to sort of have a different perception of where I'm going?
Wow. I've been there. When I got out, I went through a similar process where I feel you. I appreciate you coming on. Thank you. Again, everyone, this is Ryan McDermott, author of Downriver, Memoir of a Warrior Poet. Please go pick up his book. Tell everyone where they can find it.
They can go online. Amazon.com is a great place. It's also available on Books A Million, Barnes & Noble, and many online retailers. Probably the best place to get it. I'm also on Facebook. I have a page. Downriver, Memoir of a Warrior Poet. Thank you for having me on today.
Hey, thank you for coming on. I'd like to have you back in the near future.
All right. Thank you.
Bye. All right. So that was our second segment, people. Ryan, excellent guest. Told you we're going to keep having fantastic guests on the show, especially to talk about mental health, as it is a major issue plaguing society today. So tune in for the next segment. We're going to have another fantastic guest for you. Holly Swinson is going to come on, and she's going to be talking about kids and kids' wellness. And we're going to get into a good, fiery discussion about what's plaguing children today. See you up next. United We Stand, A Marine's Fight. Written by Julian Acciard. I wrote this book to decipher through the tumultuous political dialogue and political gangbanging we see on both sides of the aisle between politicians, activists, influencers, and pundits, and get down to brass tacks solutions in order to save our republic. Again, United We Stand, A Marine's Fight, written by Julian Acciard. You can purchase the book on Amazon, Kindle, and Barnes & Noble.
Would you rather spend time with family and friends in the pool or at the barbecue rather than landscaping your yard? Well, Augusta Lawn Care is here to help you with all of your landscaping needs. Proudly serving Southern New Hampshire, we handle everything. Weekly mowing, spring and fall cleanups, bush trimming, mulch installs, lawn treatments, aeration, dethatching, and even snow plowing and salting when the dreaded winter hits. Call Augusta Lawn Care today and let your yard be the best looking yard on the block. Call 603-331-4768. Augusta Lawn Care, locally owned, professionally done. Call 603-331-4678 or visit us online at AugustaLawnCareServices.com/Londonderry. That's AugustaLawnCareServices.com/Londonderry.
New Hampshire Republican Governor Kelly Ayotte has been making a lot of noise about how she's funding education. The Republican budget she just signed provides more money for education than ever before. She even bragged the other day that New Hampshire is top 10 in the country when it comes to funding our children's education, as if giving money to school systems has anything to do with learning. If you look at the math, and if you got schooled in New Hampshire, the odds are good it's not your best subject. It's the exact opposite. The more money we throw at schools, the less kids learn. We're committed to wasting money on an experiment that failed, unless wasting money to drive parents to homeschool their kids was the goal. We prefer to pick on Democrats, lower hanging fruit and all that, but our rhetorical woodshed doesn't discriminate. If that sounds refreshing, you need to check us out. This is Steve McDonald for Granite Rock, and we'll keep shining the light on them for you.
This could be the moment we've been waiting for, the chance to feel alive.
Sometimes we forget we live in one of the most beautiful states in the country. This summer, vacation right here and discover your new.
This is where it all begins. This is where it all begins.
Sorry, getting into the music right here. So, welcome back to the third segment of Blue Collar Intellectual Podcast. Our next guest, again, we have Andy from Citizens Doge talking about grassroots in the studio with me. And our next guest is going to be Holly Swenson. She is the author of Stop, Drop, Grow, and Glow, Forming Deeper and More Joyful Connections with Yourself and Your Children. How are you doing? And welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on.
Hi, Julian. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm glad. I'm absolutely loving this. Having someone on to talk about how to deal with kids' wellness, mental health, and likewise, that is. I've had so many conversations about that recently. Just a couple weeks ago, we were talking about the negative side effects of social media on children's minds and how kids are constantly living online these days, and it's warping. It's even, we're seeing studies come out that it's warping their perception of reality, of their lived reality.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, it's, screen use is definitely one of the most significant stressors that parents are facing, but the mental, impacts that our children are experiencing is really alarming and something that we all need to collectively wake up to really help them find more balance and more health, mind, body, and spirit.
I think the average parent finds themselves completely disarmed against this type of situation because when we were kids, one, you didn't talk about your mental health. Certainly not with your kids. And I think I like to say we spent a lot of time in recent generations trying to give our kids everything we never had instead of teaching them everything we were never taught. And this leaves them disarmed with a society that is changing more rapidly than we could possibly imagine, based on our own childhood. And for most parents who didn't have to worry about screen time or anything like that when we were kids, we're just not ready for it. Well, so what can we do?
Yeah, I think, like you said, back in the day, this wasn't an issue because they didn't exist. And so, when we were kids, we were out playing, we were, coming up with different, activities on our own using, that unstructured flex, so to speak. And children today have become so reliant on screens that they're really losing that ability to engage with their creativity, having more independence. Some of those skills that really should be developed are underdeveloped in a lot of our youth. And there was actually a really interesting statistic that just came out from UCSF Children's Hospital that showed as children increase their use in social media, there's been found to be a 35% increase in depression symptoms. And so they looked at children starting at the age of 9 and where there was an average of 7 to 10 minutes per day of social media use. But by the age of 13, that had gone up to 70 minutes per day. And so, we know that this is a problem. I think, the studies are coming out showing that this is a problem. And, I think it really comes down to parents becoming more self-aware, more involved, and really role modeling for our youth ways to have a healthy balance with our technology, because it is a part of our life and it's not going away. And so we need to set, screen limits. We need to have time where devices are put away. And, and that comes down to, parents have a lot on their shoulders, but this is something that really does need to be a top priority in this day and age.
I completely agree. I don't even allow my daughters to have access to social media. We have family time every night. I get home, I cook dinner. We all sit down. My wife's a daycare director, so we all come in. We put our phones down. We have our family time, eat our dinner. We watch a family movie. I preview everything that they watch before they get a chance to watch it. My son, however, just turned 14, and he's just getting into the social media thing. But thank God, after living with me for the past 14 years and as strict as I am, I'm like, yeah, if I see you scrolling mindlessly, doing the doom scroll on Instagram or Snapchat or any of that stuff, I cut that stuff off. I have the ability to take it off their phones and block it so they can't download it, stuff like that. Because that's the only feasible way I think parents can really. I have the monitoring programs on their phones so I can see what they're spending their time on. So I can see whether if their anxiety or whatever is starting to increase, I can see where that effect is coming from, and I can start to crack down on it and have those discussions with them.
Well, I think it's terrific that you're so engaged and aware of what your kids are doing. And I think that should be front and center. I think parents do need to have, a real sense of what their kids are doing online, because it's a big world out there. And a lot of children are under-equipped for really, I think, facing, the world at large. And that's what they're getting when they are given a device like an iPhone, where they have the world at their fingertips in terms of the internet. And so having, proper controls and screen limits and that sort of thing is really super important. And I also appreciate that you mentioned that, when you guys come home, you have this time together. In our family, meal times, no screens at meal times. We don't like our kids taking phones. Only our two oldest have phones, but, no phones in the bedrooms, and, just teaching kids how to put them away before bed, unwind, not at bedtime, but, trying to have at least an hour before you start to shift gears, to bed, that you're putting that stuff away, that you're having a healthy relationship. And, and I just think it really does come down to parents, being aware of what their kids are doing, which isn't always easy. And the other piece that's hard is that you might have, controls set up in your home, but there's a lot of kids who don't. And so, that is really an issue as well. And so they might be getting all kinds of content from friends or other sources that you aren't privy to. That's part of, unfortunately navigating the life in general. But I think doing the best you can, role modeling, and having good communication with your kids at home is going to help them, hopefully steer them in the right direction.
Yeah, I think the big thing right now, obviously with what's going on in Texas, we see these kids who are being rescued from these camps, and thank God for the kids that survive. But unfortunately, a lot of these kids are going to go through trauma because they witnessed friends that didn't. And I hate to see the level of dialogue that's happening online where you have people actually wishing harm on these children. But unfortunately, I don't think a lot of parents, we get wrapped up in our own lives. You're going to have people who are going to have to rebuild their houses and rebuild their entire lives. And I think there's a danger of the children getting lost in the sauce throughout that process, and their mental health not being first and foremost as something we need to pay attention to. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, the tragedy in Texas really is heartbreaking. I mean, for me, being a mother of four, I can't imagine what those families are going through, sending your child to camp and losing them in such a traumatic, horrific way. I've actually shed tears over this, myself, because just the devastation. I just cannot imagine what these people are going through. But I think that this is really a time for coming together, not blaming. And, this was something that happened so quickly, and so many people just weren't expecting this level of devastation. And so I think just coming together, as a community, as a nation, to kind of surround these communities with love and light and support in any way that you can give, really, I think, is what's called for. And then just being there for our children. So being, open and available to process with your child if they have any questions or concerns, and really learning to meet them where they are versus thinking they know what you know. You want to, as your kids get older, they're going to understand more, but especially for our younger children, preschool and younger, if they aren't privy to what's happening, you maybe shield them from this. But as they have more awareness, and if they have, questions, concerns, that you meet them where they are and help them process and also reassure their safety and that sort of thing, because, children do have anxiety, and this kind of thing can be very scary.
I've often, we had a guest on a couple weeks back, and we were discussing children specifically, and we're discussing how so many kids are coming up with anxiety and depression. And he prefaced the concept that it's not that these children have anxiety or have depression. It's that they are experiencing anxiety and depression, and they're not being taught the proper coping mechanisms, because a lot of us as adults don't have the proper coping mechanisms. A lot of people turn to drugs, turn to alcohol, turn to violence, pornography, and a whole slew of things. And obviously a lot of this stuff isn't available to younger kids, but thanks to social media, which has become the wild, wild west when it comes to content out there. A lot of stuff I didn't have to deal with when social media first got started, but it's right at our children's fingertips. And yet the last thing we want is our kids to have access to these negative coping mechanisms that are going to lead them down a bad path. How do you think we can address this?
Sure. Yeah. I think honestly, for me, the three things that I really stand on in my life for my mental health are diet, sleep, and exercise. Mm-hmm. And I think those are gifts that we can extend to our children, and we should be extending to our children, because, as you mentioned, a lot of adults are struggling with this. I mean, this is not just a childhood issue. This is a human issue in this day and age. A lot of people are depressed. A lot of people are anxious. And so I think it comes down to becoming more aware of what you're putting in your body in the form of food and drink, trying to eat clean, healthy foods as often as possible, making sure you're getting adequate sleep. For adults, it's, 7 to 8 hours per night. For children, it can be a little more than that. Making sure that they're getting rest, because that's going to help with their mental wellness. And then in terms of movement, I think movement is a really tremendous way for keeping your mind, body strong. And so shooting for, at least an hour of movement, getting outside, getting off your devices, getting that reset so that you can move your energy in a healthy way. It's going to help boost endorphins. It's going to make you feel better. And, you can include your kids in that, or make time for yourself, or make sure your children are getting out and moving. I mean, I think those three things can really move mountains in your life, but a lot of people have a hard time making time for them. But when you do, it will radically shift your life in a positive direction.
I completely agree. So tell me, what was the precursor that led you to want to write a book? I mean, everybody's got a story that one moment that made them decide, this is something I need to share with the world. What was that moment for you?
Sure. Well, I'm the mother of 4 boys, and so I've been walking the path of parenthood. Yes, wow. We started with twins, and so we have our oldest just turned 15, and our youngest is 10, and we have one that's 13. And for me, it's been a number of things. I've always been just a natural caregiver, from the time I was a child, and so I also am a nurse, and so before we had children, I was a caregiver in that capacity, and I just really have this strong desire to help others. And, I was, busy at home for a long time, bringing our family up. They got older, and I wanted to sit down and write. And so I really just wanted to write this book as an offering to the world, to be of service, to help people really go from surviving to thriving in their life, because there's a huge difference. And I think a lot of our parents are just in survival mode, and they're really struggling. And, for me, raising 4, I've had to learn a lot of tools and tricks, and I'm still, in the thick of parenting, but I am living my glow, and I'm connecting, and I'm making good choices in my life that are helping me feel strong and healthy, all the while I'm, raising these amazing children.
I couldn't agree more. My oldest just turned 14 on the 3rd, and I have a 9-year-old daughter and a 7-year-old daughter, and I am constantly picking up more tools, more tricks in the trade, and I am going to grab your book and add it to my collection of things to read to help me out along the way. So I want to thank you for for coming on. Again, this is Holly Swenson, the author of Stop, Drop, Glow, and Grow, Forming Deeper and More Joyful Connections with Yourself and Your Children. Tell everyone where they can find you and where they can find your book.
Sure. You can find my book on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, anywhere you buy your books. It's also available on Audible and anywhere you buy your audiobooks. You can connect with me online. I'm on Instagram at hollyswenson_liveyourglow. And my website is liveyourglow.live.
Thank you. I'm so glad you came on, and I definitely look forward to hopefully having you on in the future. Thank you.
Likewise. Thank you so much.
All right. So next segment, we're going to have a guest. We were going to have him on last week, but it didn't work out. It's going to be Chris Miller to discuss his video journaling of his recovery from alcoholism, something I can definitely relate to. So up next, see you in a few. United We Stand, A Marine's Fight. Written by Julian Acciard. I wrote this book to decipher through the tumultuous political dialogue and political gangbanging we see on both sides of the aisle between politicians, activists, influencers, and pundits, and get down to brass tacks solutions in order to save our republic. Again, United We Stand, A Marine's Fight, written by Julian Acciard. You can purchase the book on Amazon, Kindle, and Barnes & Noble.
Would you rather spend time with family and friends in the pool or at the barbecue rather than landscaping your yard? Well, Augusta Lawn Care is here to help you with all of your landscaping needs. Proudly serving southern New Hampshire, we handle everything. Weekly mowing, spring and fall cleanups, bush trimming, mulch installs, lawn treatments, aeration, dethatching, and even snow plowing and salting when the dreaded winter hits. Call Augusta Lawn Care today and let your yard be the best looking yard on the block. Call 603-331-4768. Augusta Lawn Care, locally owned, professionally done. Call 603-331-4678 or visit us online at augustalawncareservices.com/Londonderry. That's augustalawncareservices.com/Londonderry.
New Hampshire Republican Governor Kelly Ayotte has been making a lot of noise about how she's funding education. The Republican budget she just signed provides more money for education than ever before. She even bragged the other day that New Hampshire is top 10 in the country when it comes to funding our children's education, as if giving money to school systems has anything to do with learning. If you look at the math, and if you got schooled in New Hampshire, the odds are good it's not your best subject. It's the exact opposite. The more money we throw at schools, the less kids learn. We're committed to wasting money on an experiment that failed, unless wasting money to drive parents to homeschool their kids was the goal. We prefer to pick on Democrats, lower hanging fruit and all that, but our rhetorical woodshed doesn't discriminate. If that sounds refreshing, you need to check us out. This is Steve McDonald for Granite Rock, and we'll keep shining the light on them for you.
This could be the moment we've been waiting for, the chance to feel alive.
Sometimes we forget we live in one of the most beautiful states in the country. This summer, vacation right here and discover your new.
This is where it all begins. This is where it all begins.
Welcome back to the final segment of Blue Collar Intellectual Podcast, live on all your major social media platforms. You can go and catch replays of the show at Ram TV Live, and you can listen to the show on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, and Kindle and Amazon Podcasts. Make sure you go do that, download them, share them with your friends, and if you don't like it, keep it to yourself. But next up, we have Christopher Miller, U.S. Army, 1st Special Forces, Green Beret from 2010-2016, 18 Bravo Weapons Sergeant, firefighter, EMT, who worked with, I'm going to mess this up, Alachua County Fire and Rescue, off and on struggle, and he's been video journaling his off and on struggle with alcoholism and his recovery, and we're going to have a good conversation because I can relate as somebody who recovered from alcoholism myself. Thank you, Chris. Welcome for coming on. Thank you.
Nice to see you. No problem. It's good to be here.
So what started you on this journey?
I would have to say my little brother, actually. For years and years, I've had almost everybody I've met, but especially my little brother. He's a head TV producer here in town. I'm not going to say the name. I don't know if he wants me to. But so he's been doing TV production and stuff like that and shows his whole life. And he's always told me that I need to get out there and tell my story. And I've always denied it. You know, like I'm good. I'm good. I've gotten opportunities to speak at, Wounded Warrior Foundation. I've got opportunities to speak at 5-Star Veterans Center at the PGA Tour for the veterans. And I just turned them all down, So finally, this last time I got out of the hospital, it was like enough is enough. And my little brother was like, I'm picking you up. You're not going back to your house. Come stay with me. Be around family. Be around your nephews. And I did. I finally was like, you know what, you're right. I'm not going back to my house by myself. I'll go to your home and spend time with the family. And while I was here, he started saying the same thing. You need to get on TikTok. You need to go out and put your story out. And I finally was like, okay, let's do it. And I was still sick. Like I just got out of the hospital and I came up with the fact that I guess I don't have anything really a skit or anything like that. I'm just going to be real and tell people, put my stuff out there and hold myself accountable because now I'm telling the world, my story. And it just gives me that more motivation to get through it and to keep pushing and fighting every single day. So I figured that would work and it has been. So I'm on day 14 today. I've already posted another video. It's hard to post something every single day. So some days it's not much and it's just, hey, this is what I've got done today. This is what I've accomplished. Or sometimes it's a great video. So I'm enjoying it, but it is a lot of work, but I got to stay busy. That's what keeps me sober, is having a purpose.
I definitely feel you. When I got out of the Marines, I had PTSD. I was drinking like a bottle a day and I ended up losing everything. I lost my apartment, lost my job, didn't get any. I lost my identity as a Marine. I didn't get paid for another like 2 months, 2.5 months after I got out. So I ran through my savings and losing my purpose in life and losing everything else and being a homeless veteran. With my wife and my baby boy, I got lucky. One of the guys that I served with let us live in his garage on base, which is illegal.
No,
Which is illegal for the civilians
which you
out there
wouldn't
who
think.
don't know. You're not allowed to. You're not allowed
I didn't
to.
know that. I had no idea.
So we were sneaking in and on base, living in his garage, and unfortunately, he had PTSD, and we spiraled. His was unresolved, mine was unresolved, and of course, we were drinking bottles a night between the two of us, and it got to a bad point, and finally, I got to the point where I was like, all right, this isn't good. I'm not going in a good direction. I'm drunk every night. I can't sleep. I feel like shit. So I went back to school. I went back to school, went to college, started working again, doing private security, executive protection, celebrity protection, stuff like that, and just anything that I could do to be around other veterans, because I realized part of the thing that I really lost was I lost my brotherhood.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad you brought that up because you gave me something to talk about. So actually, yes, your story sounds a lot like mine. When I got out, my world was being special forces. It takes a lot to become a Green Beret. It's, my first 3 years were nothing but schools. So before I donned my Green Beret, and as soon as I donned my Green Beret and I went to my team, within a month we were in Afghanistan. So my world was to eat, breathe and sleep being special force, being on the team, being on the A team, right? And having that brotherhood. And when I lost my child, I had my first marriage. We were married for about probably 12 years by then at the time. And I just got back from Afghanistan and we decided to have a kid. And I went to Thailand, came back, and it's supposed to be like 21 weeks to see if it's a boy or girl and get the sonogram and all that. It's supposed to be a happy time, but the baby's heartbeat was not there. So she had to pass the child at the house, which was a horrific thing. And I'm gone. I'm gone. I'm always training or I'm out of country. And so I'm not there for my wife, and we're stationed up at JBLM, but all of our family's down from Florida, so she has nobody. She's putting herself behind and putting me first. And she's up there going through that alone. So it started to strain on our marriage and strain on me. I figured maybe, I didn't deserve a child or something. I was coming up with all kinds of ideas. So I didn't re-enlist. I decided to move back home to try to save my family. And when I got back home, I did not know who I was. Just like you said, I didn't know who I was as a man. Like, who is Christopher Miller now that I'm not a Green Beret? Being a Green Beret, everybody on base knows who you are. You walk around with your head held high, right? But now I'm trying to go back into the civilian world. I'm like, I got lost. Like, I could not work a regular job. Like, I'm used to running and teaching people how to shoot, move, and communicate, and how to, do drills and stuff in Thailand and Japan and Afghanistan, all over the world, and jump out of airplanes, get paid to play with explosives and weapons. And then all of a sudden you come home and it's like, what do you do for fun? I mean, I just got miserable. So the drinking got really bad and really heavy. And I cannot tell you how many times, I've had CPR done on me and outside in a parking lot at an AA meeting. I've been in the ICU multiple times. Went from acute pancreatitis to chronic pancreatitis. I've had problems with my liver. I've been in and out of rehab so many times I can't even count. I woke up out of an induced coma on a ventilator machine, breathing for me with, a catheter inside me. I literally was knocking on death's door, and I just could not shake it. I would get clean and then I would do good, and then I would be depressed again and go right back to the drinking. And what I found out was the type of guys like me and you we have that A-type mentality, right? So we need to have a purpose. All this rehab and going in these rehabs and stuff, none of that worked. AA never worked. That's something that did not work for me. And it works for a lot of people. So I'm not down in it, but it did not work for type guys like me and you, right? Or for me, it didn't. I'm going to speak for myself. So, but what I did find out was when I decided I was going to go back to school and I'm going to be a firefighter and an EMT, I stopped drinking instantly. because now I'm training again. I have a mission to accomplish, and I have a purpose in life. I'm serving my community, so that right there, I didn't pick up a drink for almost 3 years.
Damn.
I went to EMT school. I went to fire school, and then I went out to Alachua County. I chose Alachua County instead of JFRD, which is Jacksonville Fire and Rescue. I chose Alachua because they had better benefits and stuff. But I literally had no problem. Like, drinking was nothing no more. I was in the top shape of my life. I mean, it was amazing. And I got in trouble because of a girl. Not because of her, because of my decisions, what I decided to do and my mistakes. But it was over a girl. And some bad things happened, and I got on probation to where I had to take a year off from firefighting. But I can go back. They're like, this job's always here waiting for you. You can always come back, but just get that stuff taken care of. And what happened after that? I picked up the bottle again.
Yep.
And I just got out of the hospital. I went to the hospital over 9 times, but I know I went to at least Baptist Hospital 9 times since January of this year. But I also went to St. Vincent's, and I also went to Shands. So a total of 11 times, The last time I just got out 14 days ago, and, they had to do an endoscopy on me. So they put me to sleep. I've had 2 endoscopies on me. So I've been put to sleep twice, and I have bleeding ulcers. The lining of my stomach is almost gone, and I'm just killing myself. It's basically slowly committing suicide without knowing that you're committing suicide. So, yeah.
I've had a lot of people on, especially a lot of veterans. We've talked about mental health, and I've always found that the drivers of suicide, drug addiction, alcoholism, it's not actually our service that ends up killing us. It's the losing the pillars of who we think we are.
Exactly.
And like when I lost that, and when I went back to college, I was like, all right, the mission is to graduate and to get my expertise down. Then private security, I was like, the mission is my client. And then DOD security, same thing. And it was like, I always have to have a battle to fight. I always have to have a war to fight. I always have to have a mission to go forward, because at the core of who I am is a warrior. And the war may change, but I don't change. So I need to figure out how to always have that, to rebuild that pillar every time it starts to fall.
Yep. I totally agree with you. And then that's what works for us, at least for me and you. I can't speak for all vets, but we are warriors inside. And I mean, I've been in martial arts my whole life. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai, and we're fighters. And if we don't have something to stimulate ourselves, like, I need stimulation. I need a challenge. I constantly need something to be challenging me daily. And if I don't have that, then that's when the demons start coming out. So when I'm at my house all by myself, staring at 4 walls, I have, a 2-bedroom house, and it's empty, and I have too much time to think. And when I have too much time to think and I get inside my head, that's when I remember all the things that I've been through. And that's when the depression comes up, and the alcohol tries to numb the pain, I mean, drinking from morning till night, just to numb pain, and it's literally killing me.
I was right there. And it never really gets rid of the pain. It only dulls it enough so that you can go to sleep to redo the same thing over and over again. And
absolutely.
And it does kill you. And I ended up getting to the point where I had liver problems and stuff. And on top of it, I'm disabled veteran, so I had the VA was giving me, painkillers and all sorts of stuff. So on top of the drinking, I'm also killing my liver with all the prescriptions they're giving me and stuff. Yeah. And it got to the point where my doctor's like, damn, you need a liver detox pill just to take your pills. And you need to stop drinking. And it like, I spiraled quick, so I had to rebuild. I had to basically rebuild. And now my fight is politics. I work full-time as a political strategist and author and writer and stuff, because now my fight is saving the republic. But I did notice that when I was in those situations, the only saving grace around me was my family, because they're the only people who knew me prior to serving.
Yeah. Absolutely. Family.
Yeah. I'm glad you get linked up with your brother and you spend that time with your family. That makes a huge difference.
Absolutely. Like, family's everything. And if I didn't have them, especially my little brother. Like my mom and dad, they started showing me tough love because enough was enough after years back and forth of, dealing with this. They had to put their foot down. Like you can't just keep running back home, every time, you get in some trouble. But my little brother was like, he never gave up, never gave up. He would call me constantly and I would tell him, I'm okay. I'm okay. And even though he knows that I'm not okay, my little brother has a big heart, and here I am, I'm making the right choice. I'm in a little room with my brother and 5 nephews and my sister-in-law. And I got a house right across the Buckman. You know what I mean? Like I got a home, so it's hard to stay here, but I know this is the place I need to be. And so making these videos every day, doing the journey, all that helps. It feels like I have a mission to help others now, so I have people reaching out to me on my TikTok that are telling me their problems and like talking to me in private messaging and stuff. And I have people that thank me, like just yesterday, a lady thanked me and said that she put down the bottle just by watching my videos. And she's like, we got this together. I mean, that right there just touches my heart to where it's like, there's a point, there's a purpose to making these TikTok videos, and being the one that stands out to say, I don't care what people think about me. I don't care if they want to make fun of me. I don't care if people want to put me down. I know what I've been through. I know who I am. I know how bad, I know how, I don't want to say that word, but I know how dangerous I am. I don't need to prove myself to anybody, so I'm humbling myself enough to step out to say what others won't say. And to hear your story saying what you've been through, I would have never known that if you didn't step out and tell me that. I didn't know that about you.
I think that's important, though, because if we don't tell our stories, there's a lot of people out there who are suffering and they're going through stuff and they think that they're alone because they don't, it's not, at least in our generation, I don't think it's passe to be talking about our problems with people. So for us to be able to step out and be honest about it, it hopefully gives other people the strength to do the same and to resolve their issues. I'm glad people are reaching out to you and that it's had an effect on other people's lives. Does that help keep you going?
Absolutely. Yesterday, I had one of my followers reach out to me. She was telling me that she was sick to her stomach and she's been crying all day because there is a video with a veteran that's been homeless for, I think he said 9 months now. And his dog, which is a Belgian Malinois, which I love. Those are my favorite dogs. Yeah. I used to own one. We work with him in Special Forces. Yep. So when I got back from Afghanistan, I bought a puppy, and I got one from a SWAT guy who breeds them. They're my favorite. So anyways, he had a video on there, and he's crying because his dog was literally beat up by a pit bull, I think a couple pit bulls, and this dog's ear was literally just flopped and chewed all up. You can see the bite in the holes through the ear. His name's actually a Sniper, by the way. The dog's name. His neck was completely bit up. He couldn't turn his head. His head was like cocked, and he couldn't walk. He wouldn't make any noises or bark. And I just felt for this guy. So she asked me if I can do anything to help him. So I told her to send me the video that she found, and she was in contact with him. I wasn't. And so I said, tell him to make a GoFundMe account and send me a video. And I'll make a short video real quick and we'll post it. So that's what I did yesterday. On top of my video, I made that video and we posted it to help reach a veteran. I mean, he's crying on TikTok, making a video because he loves his dog, and that's all he has. And it's about us reaching out. It's about veterans reaching out for other veterans and looking out for each other. Like you said, the brotherhood, right? Mm-hmm. So me and you, like you do, now I'm learning to do it. It's only been 14 days. I'm still new at it. But it's people like us that reach out to others that helps us heal. It literally heals me because when I see other people hurting and I'm helping them, it helps me at the same time. Yeah. I mean, it just literally keeps me sober because I have a purpose. Once again, it goes back to feeling like I'm making a difference. We constantly feel like we have to make a difference. And that's what you're still doing today. Look at you. Everything that you've done since you've been in the military, now all the way up to now.
I think that's the most important thing, especially for those of us who served. We're not going to get the help from the government that we need, and even if best intent to them, they want to help, they don't know how, and they don't know how because what we have and the issues that we have can't be fixed by, popping a pill. It can't be fixed with typical therapy. It can't be fixed with, another prescription and another doctor visit. It comes from each other. And the more we help out each other, the more we can start to, really turn this thing around. Is because it's not 22 a day now. It's far greater than that.
It used to be 22, but it keeps rising.
Yeah.
Just for the people that don't know, that's 22. The old number was 22 veterans commit suicide every year.
Yep.
I mean, daily. I'm sorry, daily.
Yeah, daily. And
that's every day.
And I saw at one point during the pandemic, it got up to almost 60.
Because they had too much time to think.
Yep.
Because they're locked indoors and they have too much time to think. And that's when same with me. It's sad.
Please send us that video of that veteran with his dog. That way we can repost it and get that out there.
Absolutely. I'll send it to you.
Everybody, this is Christopher Miller, U.S. Army Special Forces, Green Beret, video journaling his recovery and, his new mission. Please tell everybody where they can find you so we can support.
You can find me on TikTok. I'm actually on TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram, but TikTok's the main platform, and it's Christopher_combat_veteran.
All right, thank you.
Or it's vet. It's actually vet.
Okay.
VET.
Thank you for coming on, and your story hits home. I feel it. And
Well,
thank
of course
you for
you do, because you've
sharing
been through
with
it.
us.
Well, thank you, man.
And stay strong, brother.
Hey, you too, brother. Thank you for inviting me on the show.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to this week's episode of Blue Collar Intellectual Podcast on Ram TV Live, produced by Ram TV. We got our producer, Juan, here in the studio kicking ass as usual. And make sure you go check those episodes out at Ram TV Live. Check us on all platforms. Follow, share it with everybody. And tune in next week. Up next, we're going to have Granite State Live, and after that, we're going to have Shadow Band. See you next week. United We Stand, A Marine's Fight. Written by Julian Acciard. I wrote this book to decipher through the tumultuous political dialogue and political gangbanging we see on both sides of the aisle between politicians, activists, influencers, and pundits, and get down to brass tacks solutions in order to save our republic. Again, United We Stand, A Marine's Fight, written by Julian Acciard. You can purchase the book on Amazon, Kindle, and Barnes & Noble.